This is one of the most hyped releases I've seen for a while. An accessible 60% keyboard that comes with plateless and plated options and can actually be purchased in stock. It comes with 2 PCBs by default, so you're getting a really good deal here. This is not some budget entry level tier stuff, but a solidly priced mid-tier keyboard, the Vertex Arc60. Vertex is a bigger keyboard company that runs a China-only sale first before selling it internationally. They did the Vertex Angle, which I covered before. I think doing 2 different sales is smart because it allows them to really dial in their product and fix things between the runs if they do come up. And at the end of the day, the product is better for the consumer. A company at this size can weather more issues and not just have to throw up their hands and be like, whoopsies, like some other smaller vendors that we've seen. The video is sponsored, but my opinion is always my own, you know this. The Arc60 has a flippable mid-piece that accommodates 2 different mounting styles properly. The mounting points are different for the plate option and plateless. This is ingenious because it's a true PCB gasket mount and a true plated gasket mount. The 2 sides of the mid-piece has an offset for mounting points, so neither mounting style has any shortcomings or caveats. I've never seen this before and it honestly shows. My small smooth brain had a hell of a time figuring out how to build it, but we're going to take care of you here. So here we have the arcane color. It's freaking beautiful. It's a sick color, but it's definitely going to hurt your head as you try to find matching keycaps because it's not truly a purple, it's not truly magenta. So honestly, my opinion is stick with the black keycap set like white on black. The keyboard itself has a 3-piece design with a small brass weight. It's not intended to be a heavy brick in the hand, it's meant to be movable and nimble. So for those who are constantly moving their keyboard around, maybe you're working on the table or you just have habits like gaming with an angled keyboard and with that curve right here, you can actually pick it up. Having the wedge shape looks cool and clean, but when it's heavy, it's really hard to get in there to pick it up. So we mentioned the kind of transforming nature of the board. The mid piece either screws to the top case or the bottom case depending on the configuration. So on the build stream, we start with the hot swap plated option. Every keyboard comes with a solder and a hot swap PCB, so it's a great value. The solder is intended for the plateless and the hot swaps for the plated. For the hot swap plated, we screwed the mid piece facing down. So mid piece screwed to the bottom piece of the case. Then all we had to do was build as normal. Stabilizers into the PCB, test them, and then the plate and switches on top. Install the gaskets carefully. You then sandwich this into the top case and voila, keyboard. For the plateless option, we screw the mid piece facing up into the top case. Stabs into the PCB, test them, put switches in, solder, donezo, keyboard. The main thing is for the plateless or the plate option, put the plate or PCB assembly inside, close the case, don't screw it in. If there is a gap, you did something wrong. I noticed this a few times. There's a gap, you may need to flip the mid piece over and you probably got it mixed up in the build process. Here are the clips of the 2 configurations so you can see which mounting points match up so you don't mess up with your build. Once you're all done, you have 2 configurations with 2 different sounds and feels if you want to use both. Plated configuration was not very flexible and had a full sound, which is what you actually want out of a smaller keyboard. Vertex provided Lube Designer Studio Starry switches, and it's a very deep switch. It uses a P3 long pole stem, which ends up having a less clacky sound. The lube felt a little bit heavy-handed, so in the sound ended up pretty quiet. And for hot swap testing, we use Gecko full silent switches, and it's as quiet and clean as you expect. Here's a sound test. Plateless option was surprisingly not as flexible. The main thing about this keyboard that makes it really special is the PCB, both the hot swap and the solder, have no flex cuts. I think flex cuts have been our biggest mistake. It provides a bouncier tapping experience, but often there's flex cuts in the PCB and not in the plate, so it doesn't even match up anyway. And with too many flex cuts, the sound is just dead. It's just muted and just boring for my personal preference. And when you have flex cuts and it sounds too quiet, the fix for it is to put tape over the flex cuts. This is not something that some random person came up with. This is actually AIO3's suggestion for the AIO3 Polaris that he designed and made. He said it sounds a little better if you just tape the flex cuts. So even a designer that used the flex cuts kind of regrets his decision. So flex cuts often do more harm than good. If you want a flexible typing experience, use a flexible plate or get plateless, but my opinion is to keep the flex cuts out of it. The keyboard sounds pretty damn good actually. It just doesn't have that trampoline typing experience that you may get out of a 7V plateless or a Thera 75 plateless. We used the hamster linear switches from KVD fans and they sounded great here. Good. So basically I take a piece of shelf liner with the width of the height of the spacebar, right? And then I cut down the middle using a flush cutter. I just fold it and cut it, and then use electrical tape. This allows it to sit and hold onto the keycap. The main draw for this keyboard is the accessibility and the price. We just did a tier list video featuring the most buyable and viable keyboard options in 2022 and coming into 2023. I'll put the link in the top right here. Vertex already had a drop before Christmas, and they're having another one in a week. I actually rank this keyboard very similarly to the Frog Mini, and possibly leaning more towards this one to keep because it has a cleaner look and has two options for the price. The Frog Mini weight has a gross font, and this just looks cooler, and I just personally really like Plateless. Having two PCBs with hot swap and solder is actually banger value for the price. So why does this keyboard matter? Well, we finally see Meteor getting a bit more spicy. Plateless options are more rare and tend to cost a bit more. The Glacier 80 was $400, so that was pretty expensive. We talked about the Thera 75 V2, and that was a pretty good deal at $270, but not everyone loved the aesthetic. The Arc60 sits at $275, but you do get two PCBs. The PCB is about $45 plus shipping anywhere, so I think it's the same tier as the pricing of the Thera 75, considering this is a smaller board. Smaller boards typically are cheaper, and it's more reliable because it's in stock and it's a larger maker out of China. The board definitely feels quality in hand, it has frequent drops, and will give people an upgrade path if they're tired of their injection molded polycarbonate keyboards. Minimizing the size of the weight was probably the key thing here. Having a big brass weight at the bottom adds to the cost. If you minimize it, you make it more portable, still have that kind of flair on the back so it's not too boring, and you get a good value for the customer. And in terms of manufacturing costs for this, it's not simply a drop-in O-ring like the Gecko. The Gecko case is one piece, so it's much cheaper to make. Even a CNC case is pretty cheap if it's one piece. This is three pieces right here. So more pieces, more complicated to manufacture, increases the cost. The mid piece is actually pretty intricate and actually pretty cool. I like it because it's not just top piece, bottom piece, gasket mount, and you're done. It's a little bit more intentional and something you can be proud of and something you can show off to your friends. The build process is a little bit more involved because now you have two different configurations built two different ways, so it's actually pretty fun. Only if you have a guide like this video right here. If you're building it mostly blind like I was for the first time, oh man, that humbled me real quick. In terms of involvement, Vertex has always been pretty hands-on in the review process. They assisted in a few of the PCB issues I had and sent out replacements immediately. I trusted they would take care of their customers. The Vertex Angle group buy owners have enjoyed their keyboard, so I think this as an Instock is a no-brainer. I like the sound and feel of this over the Vertex Angle personally. Would this make my unicorn irrelevant in my collection? Absolutely not. This is a fuller, deeper sound overall because no flex cuts and gasket mounting, and the typing experience is going to be a bit more bouncy without a plate. A unicorn or Gecko is going to be a louder and poppier sound. This is way easier to buy than a unicorn though. Because I've read multiple sales, it will not be hard to get this keyboard for retail cost or below. I've actually seen a lot of these on the aftermarket already. This is the sign of a healthy hobby in my opinion. Used keyboards should be easy to buy at retail or below. You shouldn't be above, okay? What do you think of this keyboard? How's the color? Tell me you love it in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.